Welcome back. Entrepreneurs have been attracted to the idea of being the boss of their own business. But recent studies again have shown that a lack of business managerial skills leads to 90% of small and medium enterprises failing within 10 years. So what about those opting for franchise businesses? Are survival chances any better? Well, Anita du Toit is with the Franchising Plus. She joins us this afternoon to chat on the subject. Anita, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Well, let's start with that very question. Do you stand a better chance of succeeding if you choose a franchising business compared to a non-franchising one?
Absolutely. There are many things that contribute to the success of franchises. First of all, you're getting into a business with a proven concept. There is an established trademark and brand, and the franchisor provides support and training. In addition to that, banks are more likely to finance franchises, and the 4 major banks all have franchise divisions to support this sector.
When potential franchisees are pondering over this question, one of the considerations that come up is whether or not we've reached saturation point, or is there still a lot of space out there to get a franchise business?
There's a lot of scope for the development of franchising in South Africa. The franchising currently contributes about 12% to GDP. In countries like the USA, over 50% of retail businesses are franchised. So there's a lot of scope, especially for certain categories. For example, in the UK, we see a lot of man-in-a-van type of concepts, and that will be your painters and, distributors and things like that. And we believe there's a lot of scope to develop that on the one hand. On the other hand, there's also scope to develop professional service type of franchises, providing things like business consulting. It's tough economic times. People are worried about their jobs in big corporates, and it would be great if we can develop more concepts that also cater for people who want to apply their professional skills and knowledge.
For the beginners, for those closer to the grassroots levels, perhaps lower down on the socio-economic bracket, what could be the possible sectors that they could look at?
Well, you have to look at what we call entry-level franchises. And as I said, we think as a firm that develops franchises, we should look at these sectors. For example, there's a lot of painters out there that are informally painting people's houses. If one of the big companies could come and formalize them into a franchise network, they will have a greater chance to succeed.
We spoke earlier about the success rate of new businesses, and I suppose one's got to consider the fact that potential franchises got to be very diligent when you're looking out there, because it's not always heaven, it's not always positive when you're starting off, I would imagine.
It's very, very important to do your research properly. Unfortunately, there are a lot of franchisors who are not well prepared, and they don't always understand what goes into developing a franchise infrastructure, etc. So as a franchisee, you have to do your homework. This is probably going to be the biggest investment you will make in your life. So first of all, look at online information portals like whichfranchise.co.za. Look at a disclosure document that the franchisor is legally required to provide you according to the Consumer Protection Act. And then, very importantly, speak to existing franchisees and ask them this one question: will you buy the franchise again? And that is normally very telling.
You often hear, and very quickly, you often hear people who are going into it saying or accepting the phrase, well, people will always buy chicken, so let me go into chicken. Is that a myth? Is that easy to go by? Should people go by that?
Look, the food sector is very interesting at the moment. In fact, it only makes up about 1/3 of all franchises in this country, but it is heavily traded. There's a lot of competition. It's dominated by listed groups like Taste and Famous Brands and Spur, and you have to be very careful when you look at that. Go with a franchisor with a good track record and look for new categories and new products. For example, everybody's getting on the breakfast bandwagon at the moment. So you have to make sure that the franchisor is forward-thinking and looking at exploiting new market opportunities.
Anita du Toit from Franchising Plus, thanks very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
Now, international business news coming up after the break. Do stay with us.